So children, now we have learnt about the external features of the heart. Now we'll try to see what are the internal features of the heart. That means we'll try to learn all the terminology, right? First, all the terms which are used in the internal structure of the heart and also their function, which will make this particular topic very much easier to you so that you can understand it more better. Okay children, so if you look at the board, right, and also listen carefully, you will understand a lot of things so that you can understand the next session very clearly. If you don't hear this session properly, next session will be like, no, will be in a dilemma, what is going on, right? So I want you to concentrate completely on the lecture which I'm going to share with you, right? Stay tuned. Now, coming to the first thing, as we have studied about the heart and also blood, now we will learn about the blood vessels. We'll learn about the blood vessels. Okay. Firstly, the blood vessels are we call them as arteries. There are two types of blood vessels. One is arteries. Second one is the veins. Right. So one is the arteries. Second one is the veins. Right. So these arteries are the blood vessels. Right. These are the blood vessels which carry blood away from heart. So arteries are the ones which carry the blood away from the heart. They carry the blood away from the heart. So from the heart the blood is carried, right, to different parts, that will be done by the arteries. It's not about carrying the oxygenated blood or carrying the deoxygenated blood. It's all about carrying the blood away from the heart. So they'll carry from the heart to the different parts, right? Those are called as the arteries. Okay, now coming to the types of arteries here, right? I write the arteries here. Now coming to the arteries, you can see three types of arteries here. One is pulmonary artery. Okay, pulmonary artery. Second one is the systemic aorta. The large arteries are called as the aorta, right? Regular ones are called as arteries, but the large ones are called as the aorta. So there are two arteries here. One is pulmonary artery, second one is the systemic artery, and third one is coronary artery. Okay, so we are going to read about these three arteries, right? So all of you keep your complete mind here, right? Now this is the pulmonary artery. Okay, what is its function? What is its function? The function of pulmonary artery is to carry the blood. Okay, already we have seen that they carry the blood away from the heart. That means they will carry the blood from heart to lungs. Now what is the reason they are carrying the blood to the lungs? They are carrying it for the purification. Okay, they are carrying for the purification. So the blood has to get purified. So that's the reason why the blood is being carried from heart to the lungs for the purification. So pulmonary arteries. Okay, you can see. Okay, pulmonary artery is the one which carry the blood from heart to the lungs. Okay, now this pulmonary artery will divide into two, so that one part can go into the right lung and one can go into the left lung. So that's why we say pulmonary arteries, right? Pulmonary arteries, they carry the blood from heart to the lungs, right? This is the first thing. Second thing is the systemic aorta. So the systemic aorta is the large blood vessel. It is a larger blood vessel which takes the blood away from the heart. Okay, so from the heart to all parts of the body. All parts of body. And one thing here is you have to know that all the blood which is purified, right? The purified, or you can say the other word is oxygenated blood. The oxygenated blood, that means the blood which is now full of oxygen, right? The blood which received the oxygen, okay, which has binded with the oxygen, right? The hemoglobin will bind with the oxygen, and that oxygenated blood will be taken to the different parts of the body. So who will take it? That is the systemic aorta. Where it will take the blood? It will take the blood to the all parts of the body. Okay, children. So this is the thing we have to remember. Now coming to the coronary artery. Coronary artery. Coronary artery is the artery which takes the blood away from the heart to walls of the heart. Here the walls of the heart, like they are made up of cardiac muscle, right? Because this muscle has to keep on contracting and relaxing. They have to contract, they have to relax so that they can pump the blood. Okay, so for that reason, the heart of the heart, okay, the coronary artery sends the blood from the heart to the walls of the heart. So that is the work of the coronary artery. So how many arteries are there now? There are three arteries. One is pulmonary artery, okay, which carries the deoxygenated, I will write here, deoxygenated blood for purification, right? The waste, the contaminated blood, or you can say it's a blood which has the carbon dioxide in it. So you can say the carbon dioxide is present in it. So that blood is the deoxygenated blood. You can say there is no oxygen in that, right? So that is why it's called as deoxygenated blood. So that deoxygenated blood is carried to the lungs. For what's the reason for the carrying the blood there? That is for the purification, because the purification has to go on there, right? That's the reason why it is carried to the lungs. Second one is the systemic aorta. Aorta in the sense, large arteries are called as the aorta. So this large artery called as aorta, it carries the blood from heart to all parts of the body, So that's how. And moreover, what is the blood which is carried? That is the oxygenated blood, okay? That is which is a purified blood, where it goes to the lungs, gets purified, and then systemic aorta will carry it to each and every part of the body, right? And then coming to the coronary artery, right? It carries the blood. This artery is a blood vessel which carries the blood from heart to walls of the heart. So this is, okay, this is about the arteries which are present in our body, right? So we are talking about the blood vessels. We said that there are arteries and veins, okay? Arteries, veins. Okay, we'll talk about the capillaries later. But for now, remember the arteries and also the veins. So now these are the three blood vessels, right, which are called as the arteries. Arteries, never think that they carry the oxygenated blood. So that is not the right definition. If that definition is in your mind, just please remove that definition, right? Now, what is the actual definition of arteries? The blood vessels which carry blood away from the heart are called as the arteries. Okay, children? So keep this thing in your mind, right? Now coming to the second one, that is the veins. Right now, children, now we'll come to the veins. Veins are the blood vessels which carry blood to the heart. Arteries, they carry blood away from the heart. But whereas here, veins are the ones which carry blood to the heart. They will bring blood to the heart. Okay. So now there are three major veins, right? The large veins are called as the Vena Cava, right? They are called as the Vena Cava. Okay. The large arteries, we call them as aorta, right? In the same way, the large blood vessels are also, they are called as the Vena Cava, right? So the first vein we are talking about is the superior vena cava. Okay. Now what is the function of the superior vena cava? Superior vena cava is the blood vessel which brings the blood to heart, okay, from head and neck to heart. Superior vena cava, okay, they are the ones which bring the blood from head and neck to the heart. So if it is bringing something to the heart, that is the deoxygenated blood. deoxygenated blood. So the superior vena cava is bringing the blood from head and neck to the heart. That is the major function of the superior vena cava. And the second one is the inferior vena cava. This inferior vena cava brings the blood from rest of the body again to heart, and this blood is also deoxygenated blood. This is also deoxygenated blood. So from rest of the body, that is, here we have seen that head and neck, right? From head and neck, the deoxygenated blood is brought to the heart by superior vena cava, and by the inferior vena cava, the same deoxygenated blood which is completely impure, that is brought to the to the heart from rest of the body, rest of the parts of the body except neck, hand, like head and neck, also lungs. So now this is about the second vein, right? And now coming to the third one is the pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein. But where I see here, the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava are carrying the deoxygenated blood to the heart, right? Now this pulmonary vein has a separate function here. Pulmonary vein has a separate function here. This pulmonary vein carries the blood from lungs to the heart. They carry the blood from lungs to the heart, and this blood will be the oxygenated blood, or else you can call it as purified blood. So superior vena cava, inferior vena cava brings the deoxygenated blood, okay, from head, neck and rest of the parts of the body to the lungs. So when it comes to the lungs, when it comes to the lungs, that is inferior and superior, both of them are getting the blood to the lungs, and in the lungs what happens? The purification will happen, or the blood will get oxidized, and then the pulmonary vein will carry this blood away from the lungs and send it to the heart. So this is the third vein, and these are the large veins which are present. Okay, these are the large veins which are present in the animals, right? Especially we are talking about the human beings and also the higher animals. Now, fourth one is also there, which is the coronary vein. Coronary vein. This carries the blood from the walls of the heart. Walls of the heart to the lungs. So this coronary vein, it carries the blood from the walls of the heart to the lungs. So these are the four blood vessels which are very, very important, right? So we have talked about the arteries, we have talked about the veins, right? In arteries we have seen pulmonary artery, and then we have seen systemic aorta, and in the veins we have seen the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava and pulmonary veins, and also a special vein which is the coronary vein, right? So these are the different blood vessels which are present in the body of the human being, not only human being but also the higher animals. Okay, children, now we'll see the second one. Now, to understand the internal structure of the heart, I want you to learn two terms. And I will teach you the two terms now. Okay, children, now we'll imagine this as a heart. Here. And now we already know that there are the four chambers here, right? There are four chambers here. One is the right auricle, and this one is the left auricle. This is the right ventricle, and this is the left ventricle. Okay, already we have seen this, right? So right auricle, left auricle, right ventricle and left ventricle. Now if you observe carefully, what I have done here is I have drawn this right auricle a little bigger in size, okay, and whereas left auricle a bit smaller in size. And here I have drawn the right ventricle smaller in size and right ventricle smaller in size and left ventricle a bit larger in size. Now what is the reason behind that? What is the reason behind that, right? What are the differences? Okay. Now first of all, we'll see differences between the right auricle and the left auricle, or else you can call it as the atrium. Right atrium and the left atrium. Okay. Now this right atrium is larger in size, whereas compared to the next left atrium, it is a bit smaller in size. So this right atrium is larger in size, and whereas that will this left auricle or left atrium is smaller in size. Second thing is that this is big because it has to receive the deoxygenated blood from inferior vena cava and also superior vena cava, and that's the reason why the space in this right atrium is a bit bigger when you compare to the left atrium. Okay, because this left atrium receives the blood only from the lungs, so that's why, okay, this will receive the blood from the lungs, that's why this is a bit small. And third difference is this right atrium receives the deoxygenated blood, isn't it? What does it receive? It receives the deoxygenated blood, whereas left auricle receives the oxygenated blood. It receives the oxygenated blood. Okay. And now the fourth difference is it will pump this deoxygenated blood into the right ventricle. Okay. Pumps blood to right ventricle, and here this one pumps the blood to left ventricle. So these are the four differences. These are the four differences between the auricle, right auricle and the left auricle. Okay, children. So in the same way now, so did you understand this one? Right auricle is larger in size because it has to receive the blood from inferior vena cava and also the superior vena cava, right? And left auricle is a bit smaller because it will receive the blood only from the lungs. And this blood which comes to the right auricle is the deoxygenated blood, and whereas this left auricle will receive the oxygenated blood. And next one is it pumps the blood to the right ventricle, and left auricle will pump the blood into the left ventricle. So these are the differences between the right atrium and the left atrium. So now we'll see the differences between the right ventricle and the left ventricle. Okay, now children, we will see the differences between the right ventricle and the left ventricle. If you see the left ventricle, okay, it is a bit small in size because it has to send the blood only to the lungs. Okay, and then this is a bit larger in size because it has to contract and send the blood to all parts of the body. So because if it contracts, then it has to send the blood to even to the foot, right? From the head to the foot. So that's why this is a bit larger in size. That's the first thing. Second thing is it is carrying the deoxygenated blood, and this one receives the oxygenated blood from the left auricle. So the right ventricle receives the deoxygenated blood from the right auricle. Okay. And now third difference, that is it is receiving the deoxy, it is receiving the oxygenated blood. It receives the oxygenated blood, okay, with the help of the tricuspid valve. The tricuspid valve which is here, that will allow the blood to come into the right ventricle. Okay, and here we have the bicuspid valve which is allowing the blood to come into the left ventricle. Okay, and coming to the fourth difference, it will supply the blood to lungs. It will supply the deoxygenated blood to the lungs for the purification, and whereas this one supplies the blood to all parts of the body, so that each and every cell gets the oxygen. So these are the four differences. Okay, first one is this right ventricle is smaller, okay, than left ventricle. Right, left ventricle is a bit larger. The reason is right ventricle only pumps the blood to the lungs, but whereas the left ventricle has to send the blood to different parts of the body. That's why it's a bit larger, and it has to compress, it has to contract, so, and also needs to put much pressure so that the blood is sent from the heart to the foot, right, till the foot level. Next is it receives the deoxygenated blood from the right auricle, whereas left ventricle receives the oxygenated blood from the left auricle. Okay, that is the major difference. And here the blood comes through the tricuspid. It is guarded by the tricuspid valve. So tricuspid valve opens and it allows the blood to flow into the right ventricle, whereas in between the left auricle and the left ventricle, bicuspid valve, which is also known as the mitral valve, it will help in bringing the blood to the left ventricle. Okay, and the last thing is right ventricle takes the blood to the, only supplies the blood to the lungs, right, only till from heart to the lungs. Very near, isn't it? Very, very near. But whereas the left ventricle sends the blood from left ventricle to the all parts of the body, right? And there's one more difference which is very, very important. Here pulmonary vein, right? Pulmonary vein takes its origin. Pulmonary vein takes its origin here, right? So pulmonary vein is taking its origin here. That means it starts here. Whereas here there is systemic aorta takes the origin here. That means it will start here. So systemic aorta takes the origin from left ventricle, and pulmonary aorta, right? Pulmonary aorta takes, or you can say artery. Pulmonary artery takes its origin from the right ventricle, and that means it starts from the right ventricle and sends the blood and supplies the blood to the lungs. But whereas here, left ventricle, the systemic aorta will take the origin and will supply the blood to all parts of the body. So that is how these are the differences between the right auricle and left auricle, right ventricle and left ventricle, which is very important, okay, for the examination. So if you take these questions, if you take these questions, no, they are very, very important for the examination. So I want you to study well, I want you to listen well, okay, I want you to practice well, so that if they come in the examination, you will not feel like, you should feel confident, okay, you should not lack the confidence, and you will be able to write these things in the examinations. Okay, children, so that's all for today. Hope we will meet tomorrow with something which is also very, very important. Until then, see you all, take care, and bye.